Hi, my name is Kylie Lewis, and I will be presenting the organization of cities. First and foremost, cities are mainly organized by the concentric zone model. This includes zone of transition, zone independent, zone of better residences, and zone of commuters. A little bit of history. Industrialization in cities began in 1850, and in the 1970s, manufacturing jobs began to decline in the cities. Today, suburbanization is suburban growth in areas lying within the commuting zone of a city. Innovation in transportation systems are the most significant factor in deciding urban form/land use because they control how much land is taken up. For example, Fez, Morocco is the third largest city in Morocco, which serves as a great example of how people live and how they work to modify their physical and social environments to suit their different needs. They live in closely knit communities to prevent earthquakes and to foster a sense of community. Overall, each city has their own internal geography with living ecosystems of interactions. They are competitive for space, accessibility, and convenience, with social patterns which influences how we relate to one another in an environment.
Hi, I'm Grace Frederick, and I'm going to be sort of collaborating with Kylie. As you could see in the last video, she discussed how the How Cities Are Organized crash course went over just how cities are organized. So I'm going to be expanding on two secondary sources, the first one being transportation and urban form. So I wanted to expand on just how the video explained sort of the evolution of railroads, streetcars, and how later highways influenced where people lived, worked, where they would go to the store, and how they would commute to these places. So to expand, I looked at a recent study from, I think it's pronounced Heisenberg, which was published in 2025. It sort of just investigated the link between urban form, meaning the shape, density, how land was used, those type of patterns of a city mixed with public transportation demand. So the researchers found that in cities that were more compact, mixed use, tight-knit, meaning all the amenities you can think of are closer together, people are more likely to rely on public transportation. I think a great example of this is New York City. Most people don't really use cars, or they don't own cars, I should say. So in contrast, when cities are more spread out, lower density patterns, similarly to what the video described as a sprawl driven by the highway era, transit systems are typically underutilized. So this connects back to the crash course video that different transportation technologies set the framework for urban expansion. So like whether it be Uber or a bus or taxi, those are all sources of public transportation. Streetcars once pulled middle-class families outward, and then highways later allowed suburbs to like flourish. So in today's context, compact urban form paired with strong transit can encourage sustainable growth. Okay, and then the second concept I wanted to expand on is climate responsive urban design, meaning how climate affects how a city is laid out. So I used a blog article by Gensler that gives examples on what this looks like in practice. So think in a city that's hot, humid, rainy, maybe a city in Florida. They may line the streets with trees for shade. They may make pavements more permeable so those pass with the streets. They may also just hold in that heat instead of reflecting it. Building orientation amongst a street layout, they take advantage of prevailing winds to promote natural ventilation. And then greenhouse infrastructure like rain gardens, water features, that just helps cooling, let the water flow, and maintains heavy rainfall. So this just relates to the video's broader point by showing a specific way climate is a shaper of urban form. So it just illustrates that city organization is partly a response of environmental conditions, not just economic and social ones, and that climate is not just a background factor. So yeah.
Howdy, this is Jenna Grimm, and I'm expanding on the idea of The City, the 1939 documentary. So after watching the documentary and finding my secondary source, I am deciding to kind of expand on what the secondary source is expanding off of the documentary. So after reading through my secondary source, I gathered kind of a better understanding from an outside perspective. So essentially the film is just gathering the idea of how everyone as a society is used to open land, green, everyone's happy, like they're used to their normal lives. And then a city starts being built up from the ground up. People are getting jobs. It's getting crowded. It's getting overpopulated. It's getting kind of dirty in a way. And so just kind of the propaganda of that and how it can affect the city itself, the people living in it, transportation, all the things. So the movie overlooked heavily on underlying social and economic problems. So it became this huge issue. And it kind of, I gathered from the secondary source that it's kind of a propaganda film to advocate for the suburban living and like cities just being built from the ground up out of nowhere, and it just everything changing so fast. So it helped me better understand, kind of like what the main idea is about. Just like breaking it down from this source and seeing like what the movie really meant, because it is from a while ago. So gathering kind of better ideas from this gave me more clarity on the subject. So it's basically just redefining what the film was about, is just like a huge change in society as cities are being built and how that affected everyone living in them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Garcia, and today I want to do a brief connection with the classic film to the modern urban planning concept. So with Man with the Moving Camera, which was released in 1929, is more than just an experimental document. It's a visual symphony of like the city life. Through rapid editing and dynamic shot, Vector, which was like filmer, captured the rhythm of urban movement, trams gliding through streets, workers commuting, and machines powering in the city. It's a portrait of how people and infrastructures interact within each other. This film offers a striking parallel to the concept exploring the cities, the effects of the urban form on public transportation demand on the developing cities. The study shows that compact and well-connected urban layouts naturally encourage public transit use. When cities are designed with density and mixed-use areas, transit becomes efficient and more accessible. This film offers a striking parallel to the concept exploring the studies that Vector hadn't reflected on the principle. The Soviet cities he filmed were shaped to support collective movements. Public transportation wasn't just available, so it became a necessity. Essentially to a daily life, the city forms that guide its flow. In today's developing cities, we face the challenge of sprawls and car dependency, but the lessons from 1929 still hold. When we shape cities truthfully, we shape how people move. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Garcia, and today I'll be sharing how urban form influences public transportation demands, and specifically in like developing cities and how this connects to the way like cities are organized. This week we learned that cities are often structured using models like the conceptual zone model, which includes zones of transition, better residential, and commuters. These zones reflect how people live, work, move through urban spaces, but what really shapes those patterns is the physical layout of the whole city, its density, land use, and the street connectivity. According to a recent study published in Science Direct, cities with mixed land use, whereas for homes, jobs, shops are closer together, see higher rates of walking and transit used. This supports the idea that compact, integrated zones reduce the need for cars and make the city way more easy to be accessible. Street connectivity is another key factor. Grid-like street patterns with short blocks make it easier to reach transit stops, especially in zones of transition or independence working areas. This layout encourages movement and supports public transit systems. This study also shows that urban form influences travel behavior, or whether people choose cars or buses depends on how their city is physically organized. And that's not just about the design, it's also about the socioeconomic factors of it, such as like the income, car ownership, and the job location, which interacts with the urban form with how like the shape is developed overall. The big takeaway is the city should be designed for transit. This means planning compacts, connected, and mixed-use neighborhoods to boost ridership and reduce congestion. This aligns with what we saw as Fez, Morocco, where closely knit communities adapt their physical and social environments to meet local needs, showing their internal and geographic and social patterns. In conclusion, understanding how cities are organized isn't just about the zoning, it's about how it's designed, the transportation, and the community all together to shape the urban life. Thank you for listening.